Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of My True Self, which is videos where I'm bringing to you where we are looking at the darker parts of ourselves that often stay hidden, bringing them into the light so that we can actually feel our most authentic and truest version of ourselves. So today's video is on the ego and that pesky little thing that tends to rule our life if we don't bring it into awareness. And for a lot of the people, we don't understand that it's actually quite an unconscious part of us. So a lot of the time, if we haven't brought it into light, it starts to just wreak havoc in our external life and we don't really understand why. So I guess understanding that what is the ego, first of all? It's the mind's way of identifying the self, and it's a false self, really. It's kind of the beliefs of who we are, our personality, our talents and our abilities. It's the way that we define ourselves, and the ego is really, it's based in fear, and it's the side of us that wants control. It wants to be right. It doesn't like change. It doesn't like saying, I don't know. It doesn't like uncertainty. It doesn't like saying, I don't really know the answer to that. It wants stability. So it wants to be right all the time and use those beliefs and that idea of the sense of self to drive that. What happens when we are living through the ego on a day-to-day basis is that we may start to feel emotionally depleted. We might feel stuck. We might start feeling like life is a bit joyless, or we are feeling unfulfilled, or falling into really toxic relationship patterns all the time, or connecting with other people is difficult and we don't know why. Or we just got these rigid belief systems, and maybe there's a sense of, I don't want this anymore. I don't want this rigidity, and perhaps we are seeking some form of growth but don't know how. So the biggest thing to realize is when we're living from the ego, remember that seesaw, it's like this. If we are too much in ego, we are basically motivated by self-interest. So we are always thinking about ourselves and how things relate to us. If someone's talking, it's how does this affect me? If we're talking, how are other people perceiving me? It's, we get defensive of our beliefs, our thoughts, all of our behaviors, and we reject anything that, conflicts with that. So any people, therefore, that have a different belief system or behave in a different way, we get reactive to that. We get usually anger. We're quick to anger around people that don't fall in line with the type of belief systems that we have. We might find ourselves in arguments all the time, or like I said, you may find that you're having difficulty bridging relationships because you can't understand why people are going about their life or saying these things that you just don't agree with. So when this is happening, we're just always comparing to other people. We might be judging other people, or like I said, rejecting ideas and other people. We have this black and white thinking that actually creates such a disconnection. Now, like I said, the ego is usually really unconscious, but what we can do is bring it into the light. So start recognizing when we are coming from a place of ego. It's like the idea of you're walking a dog that's pulling you along on this leash, and the whole time you're like, my arm, and it's uncomfortable and life is difficult. And all of a sudden you realize, hang on, like, I've got the leash, like I can rein this in. I can train this dog. That's like your ego. First of all, you have to recognize I'm holding the leash. So I actually am not just the dog, the leash, the movement. I have the leash. So I can actually pull back, see that that's happening, that I am separate of that. And then two, it's realizing we can train the ego a little bit. We can start to rein it in when we notice that we are falling into a place of ego. You know, we need to become a witness to that. If we are having a conversation with someone and we get hurt by what they say, or we get very defensive, pay attention. What am I thinking in that moment? And if I'm quick to anger, why am I so aggressive or angry just because this person has said something or had a different idea of the way that they're thinking about it, or their way of life is different to mine? So it starts off with be a witness to your own mind, which takes actually just sitting in complete silence. Observe yourself, and I mean without a distraction, without TV or anything. What does your mind do when you're just sitting down? Perhaps start asking a few questions of yourself. How do I react to people's views that don't match my own? What's my response in those moments? How often do I speak of myself, or am I self-involved? When other people are speaking, how much of my energy is thinking about me in those moments? How often am I worrying about what I'm doing and whether that, how other people are seeing that? And I don't know if you've ever, been in someone's company that you feel really comfortable with. You might feel like you're able to be much more present with them. And often it's because the ego sort of subsides in that moment, and we're actually able to be really present, and we're not worrying about how does this impact me and what's this person thinking of me. So ego work is it's a practice. And like I said, it's often unconscious. So first you got to bring it out of the darkness and make it conscious. And then two, it's a constant check-in. We're constantly getting that dog in line. Like, oh gosh, that came from a place of ego. What we find when we can do ego work and start to not come from a place of it all the time, we start to realize the joy in life, in being open-minded to other people's opinions and views, not always having to be right. The stress that goes with trying to protect this rightness and being right all the time, or having to know the answer and be certain, instead of being able to be okay with, I don't know. I don't always know the answer. Perhaps there are other views that other people have. That builds connection to yourself. You start to shed layers of yourself that are actually getting in the way of true joy and connection to life. Anyway, guys, it's a much bigger topic, but I hope that this has been helpful. And if you have any queries around this or want to know more, please reach out to me. Otherwise, tag a mate who, could do with a little bit of ego checking. We could all do with a bit of ego checking from time to time. So it's a good reminder anyway of when are we actually coming from a place of ego, and staying present so we can shift away from that. All right, guys, well, I hope you've enjoyed the video, and please like it if you've come this far, or tag some friends, and have a great day.